In fact, you can smell it. It's beautiful. Crystal clear, nice and cold. Classic gin martini. Well, hi, and welcome to another edition of the Ronin Leadership Podcast. I think as you can see from the backdrop, this is not going to be your usual Ronin Leadership Podcast. Let's just say it's a Christmas, New Year's holiday edition, and I'll get into more of that later. But first of all, obviously, I want to thank all of you for subscribing to our channel. We're getting close to 2,500 subscribers and counting, so thank you for all your comments and for sharing and liking our content. Please continue to tell your friends and family, and I always joke, even your enemies, because they probably need to know how to be leaders, about the podcast. Share it, like it, and subscribe to it. And also, if you go to MikeHowardAuthor.com, you'll find links to all the podcasts, all the books. I just finished wrapping up the third Jack Trench novel. It'll be coming out before the end of the year, so maybe it might make a good Christmas present. You never know, but more on that later. But anyway, so what are we doing here? Those of you who know me know that my favorite cocktail is a martini. And obviously there's a whole thing about, in fact, if you look over here at the bar, right, I've got Bond cocktails, right? So obviously James Bond's favorite cocktail is a vodka martini, shaken, not stirred. And so it's probably influenced me in terms of why I have constantly gone back to the martini as my favorite cocktail. What I want to do today, though, is to show you how I make two versions of the martini. One will be a traditional gin martini. I'll get back into that in a little bit. And the other one is the Vesper, made famous by Ian Fleming and of course by Daniel Craig in Casino Royale. But there is, I've done a lot of research on this, and Janice and I have actually watched a lot of YouTube podcasts about martinis, and there are a lot of theories as to who invented it. There's probably 4 different versions of where the martini came from. I'm really not interested in that. I'm just more interested in drinking it and learning how to make it. But if you're a purist, when you say martini, it's classically a gin martini, right? That's how it was started, is with gin. Now, you can use any kind of, I like Bombay Sapphire, but you can use Tanqueray, any kind of high-end gin, but you want to make sure it's a good gin. There are also some people, for instance, Janice and I were able to, when we were in London this year, we went to Duke's Bar, which is in Mayfair district, and it is the Mecca. Look it up, you'll look it up. It is the Mecca of martinis. There's a guy named Alessandro Palazzo that is the head bartender, and he made that place famous. And we went there. There's actually a 2-drink minimum maximum, because they're so potent and powerful. And one of the things he does is whether it's a vodka, or whether it's a gin, they freeze it. And so when they pour it into a martini glass, it comes out like syrup. And they add nothing to it. They don't shake it, they don't stir it. There's really no dilution. And so when you stir or when you shake, and I'll talk about why you would do one or the other and what it means. Over there at Duke's Bar, no dilution, so you're getting pure alcohol. So that's why the 2-drink maximum. But traditionally, martinis are made either shaken or stirred. Obviously, James Bond film lore uttered the things about vodka martini, shaken, not stirred. With gin martinis, you go to bars and you order a gin martini. Yeah, you'll find a fair amount of bartenders that will still shake. But traditionally with gin, you want to stir it because when you stir the martini with gin in it with ice, you add some dilution to it with the ice, of course, but you also don't what they call bruise the gin. Now, what does that exactly mean? I think it just kind of means messing up its consistency. You're keeping the purity of the gin by not adding too much air and movement into that martini, and that's why you stir most gin martinis. So I'm going to show you how I make it, and then I'm going to taste it, and I'm going to tell you how good it is, because every time I make a martini, they're always good. Okay, so how do you make a classic gin martini? Okay, ingredients. It's actually very simple. It's not complicated. People think making a martini is complicated. There are far more complicated drinks. So, gin, as I said earlier, make sure it's a high quality gin. I love Bombay Sapphire, okay? And so there are several kinds of martinis. You can have a dry martini or a wet martini. Now, some people joke that with dry martini, so this is Dolan's vermouth. So for a dry martini, it just means that you want very little vermouth. There are some people who joke and say, after you pour the gin in, you just kind of waft it over, and that's a dry martini. But no, you don't want to do that. So what is vermouth? Vermouth is wine-based. You could drink it on its own, kind of an aperitif. But what it does is it adds some floral elements to the gin, and it's a good complement. I like a dry martini, so I add very little. There are also martinis where, of course, here's where I put the ice in, and this is a nice crystal container for the ice. This is the stir that you use to stir. And so there are some people that like what they call wet martinis, and so you'd actually do half gin and half vermouth, but I don't go that way. So first thing I do is and you could have a frosted glass or not frosted glass, doesn't matter. But what I normally do is I would I'll take some of the vermouth, and I want it really dry, right? So what I do is I do this, and again, a lot of variations, but I actually stir the vermouth, okay? Because I kind of want to coat the ice a little bit with the vermouth, so it's got a nice floral scent. You can taste some of the citrus or the wine. And then what I do is I actually pour that out. So what you're left with is ice that's coated with some vermouth. But remember, dry martini means you want a little bit of vermouth, not much. So that's what I want. Next comes the gin. So you measure the gin. You can kind of eyeball it, maybe halfway, because this is going to be diluted, right? Okay, so remember, you've got the vermouth and you've got the gin, and it's up to you, consistency-wise, how much do you want of each. Then what you do is you take, this is the back of the spoon, right? You place the back of the spoon against your crystal container, and you hold it, and you just start to stir. It doesn't have to be rough, but you want to stir. You want to stir for about 30 seconds to 40 seconds. I kind of just count in my head slowly to 30. And it's amazing how cold this will actually get. Oh, there's a flying piece of ice. You can actually feel it down here. So you can feel down here how cold it gets. And also there are people that say, oh, you should never do this. You know, never hold it because you're gonna warm it up. It's so cold, if you put your hand on here for a second, it's not gonna warm up your spirit. So you shake, shake, shake. You keep shaking, not shaking, that's for the next one. You keep stirring, keep stirring, keep stirring, and it's cold, and oh yeah, I can feel it's cold. So put that away. You got your martini glass, right? And then, for something like this, I usually take just the top of a martini shaker and make sure you got, if you got these kinds that screw on, make sure this is on here so it doesn't spill out. Just pop this over here like this and just pour. Now look at that pour, look at that. Look at how beautiful that looks, right? And you want to just shake it till you get all the drops out, right? Nice, crystal clear, cold martini, right? You put that away. Oh yeah, that's looking really good. You see how clear it is? So then you can do several things with that. You can use olives. That's a tradition. You can use cocktail onions. That's called a Gibson. Or in my case, I like citrus in my martini. So I will take a nice lemon, right? Because it adds this citrusy element to it, which really makes it nice and fresh. So, you know, any number of ways you could do this, and I'll show you each way just because I want to demonstrate. You could take just a little paring knife and cut off a little slice. That's one way. There's other kinds of, kind of peelers. This one doesn't work as well, but this gives you a thinner peel, right? So you can do that. Or they got these big honking things, these big ones that you can peel, and it gives you a nice thick peel, right? You can do that. But whatever way you choose, what you want to do is, you can tell there are oils in the lemon, right? Oils. You can, if you touch it, you can even smell it. What you do is, you want to squeeze the essence of those oils. You know, just kind of let them go into your drink, like that, like that. And I'm going to use all three since I cut all three. And you want to kind of scooch it around like this to get the essence when you take that first bite, sip. But again, it's just the essence, the oils that are actually going in there. You may not see them, but they're going in there. And again, the rim here. And this one, I just pot this like a garnish. So there it is. That's a classic gin martini. And so this is the best part, taking a sip. Beautiful. Nice and cold. Diluted just right. So you're not just drinking the pure gin. Man, that just a little bit of that vermouth goes a long way, because it really gives you some of those floral elements. And then, holy smokes, when you add the citrus, in fact, you can smell it. It's beautiful, crystal clear, nice and cold. Classic gin martini. So that is basically how you do a classic martini, right? And there are a lot of variations, but I find this one to be the one that's crisp and cold, citrusy, floral. It's beautiful. So now let's get into my other favorite martini, and it's called the Vesper. And so where does the Vesper come from? The cocktail itself was an invention of the man that wrote all the James Bond novels, Ian Fleming. He wrote it in the 60s. And there was a scene in Casino Royale where Bond, part of playing the British spy, MI6, is playing cards at a high-stakes gambling place called Casino Royale against a guy named the Chief, who is a card player but also a bad guy. And after they go a round or two of playing cards, Bond orders a drink. And the way he orders it is like this. And it was also replicated in the movie Casino Royale with Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig's very first James Bond movie, where he utters the same words that are in the book. And it's basically, he asks for a vodka martini. And then he changes his mind. He says, wait, to the bar guy. He says, no, I want 3 parts Gordon's, 1 part vodka, half a measure of Quina Lillet, shaken till ice cold, poured into a champagne goblet with a slice of lemon. All right? Fleming made that up. Now, we know Fleming loved his spirits. He loved his martinis and everything, but he came up with this thing. And so I remember after the movie came out, I would go to a bar and ask for it. But nobody knew how to make it back then in the, was it mid-2000s? Nobody knew how to make that. Obviously, you can go to any good bar now and ask for a Vesper. So what is a Vesper? As Ian Fleming wrote and as Daniel Craig uttered in the movie, it is several things. It is first 3 parts of gin, right? So you have to have, again, just like with the regular gin martini, you need a good gin. And so what I mean by 3 parts, a part can be anything, right? A part can be, you could do this. You could use one of these measuring things, right? A part could be 3 measures of the Gordons, or in this case, Bombay Sapphire. And then 1 measure of vodka. So again, you need a good vodka. You're combining gin and vodka. Now this was never done back in the day. Nobody would ever think about combining both spirits. First of all, it could knock you on your ass if you have too much of it. But amazingly, it works. And then what Ian Fleming mentioned was quina lillet. Now, lillet itself is a French aperitif. It can be used as an after-dinner drink. But quina lillet, as mentioned in the book and in the movie, no longer exists. You might be able to find it on eBay, but it'll cost you like thousands of dollars. They don't make it. They make something else called lillet blanc, which you can find in the vermouth section of any good liquor store. But it's not the same. I have a good bartender friend of mine named Scotty. Works as a head bartender of a place called Harlow, which is a steakhouse here in Summerlin. And about a year or so ago, he told me about, because I have him make Vespers, and I noticed he was using this thing called Cochi Americano. And I said, well, why do you use Cochi Americano? Because again, this is another thing you could drink. It's an aperitif, he even says that, right? You could drink it on its own over ice. But he said, this is the closest to the quina lillet that was mentioned in the Bond novel. And so I started experimenting. I was doing it with Lillet Blanc, and it tastes great. But I've started doing it with the Cochi Americano. I really like it. Again, you've got vodka and you have gin. So there are, again, you have to get premium ones because these are strong spirits. But this cuts through the strength of these spirits, smooths it out, just like the Lillet is supposed to, and gives it a kind of a sweet tinge to it without making it super sweet, right? Because you want to keep the essence of the vodka, of the spirit. Now in this case, unlike this one, where we stirred it, this is the one where we're going to shake. We're going to shake this up, right? So how do you make it? So I can get my handy dandy shaker over here. So first thing you do if you want to go with the spirit of it is, let's start with the gin. Again, premium gin. Bombay Sapphire, Tanqueray, Plymouth. There's any number of ones, but make sure you get a good one. So let's go 3 parts. There's 1. There's 2. And make sure that obviously you're not driving after you have one of these. You're either Ubering or somebody is a designated driver, because this will knock you on your butt for most people. I've been trained. Then you add the 1 part of vodka. In this case, this is a Grey Goose, which I like Grey Goose. Okay. There. And then they say half a measure of the quina lillet. In this case, half a measure of the Cochi Americano. That's enough. So what you want to do is, half a measure. So you take this and you just pour half of this into the smaller part of this jigger. They call these things jiggers. Just like that, right? So that's it. Then what you do is, this time we're not going to stir. Remember, this time we're going to shake. So you make sure you have a nice, I like this. I have a lot of shakers. This one's good because when you shake it, it's insulated so your fingers don't get cold. Right? So you pour your ice in there. You pour all your ingredients in there. Okay, so the ingredients are all in there. Right? And then put your cover on. Make sure it's tight. Then you shake. Now, how long should you shake it for? There's no rhyme or reason. I personally, it's just a thing I do. I shake it for a count of 60, just to make sure it's really, really cold. It's up to you. But you shake, and you shake vigorously. Plus you give your arms and biceps a workout at the same time. On my head, I'm counting 20. And just like when you're working out, you gotta work out the other side. Okay, so the arms got to work out, got a nice shake. And again, the difference is where you do the stirring is you're not adding a lot of air and other things. This one you do add the air, and obviously you're diluting it to a large extent too with the ice. So then, all you do is like the other one, you pour it. You pour it. Now I want to show you a difference that a lot of people don't know. And I want to do it right now, right after we poured this, all right? I want you to take a look at the difference. When you stir, your spirit is going to come out clear. When you shake, because of all the dilution and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be cloudy. It doesn't make it any worse, it's just different. And then if you can kind of see on top, there's a nice little sheen of crystal, of ice. That makes it really special, right? Because now it's really cold. It's cold enough. So then, unlike the book or the movie where Bond asked for a slice of lemon peel, again, and I learned this from watching videos from that Alessandro Palazzo over at Duke's Bar. And I started trying it and it works. So basically, he says to use, instead of lemon, use an orange. The citrus part of the orange actually helps really bring out all the different flavors. So just like with the other one, I am going to use a peeler. And I'm going to take a nice peel. And see, nice peel here. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make sure I get the essence. You can even actually see it. You can see it. It's touching now. Like when I do that, you can see it. The essence of the orange. And it's just a good one too, because a lot of times I can't see it. I can feel it, but now I can see it. I can smell that, right? And then you do the same thing here. Go around the rim, and you pop that in there, and there's your Vesper. Beautiful, classic James Bond Vesper. Cheers. So first of all, I got that hint. I got the ice. I could feel the ice right off the bat. But then, oh my God, the orange. The orange just comes out. The Coca Americano, like I said, gives it. It's really interesting. If you drink this on its own, you say it's kind of sweet. But when you mix it just a little bit like this, it gives it. It's actually kind of bittersweet, along with the gin and the vodka and the orange. It just all comes together, and it's actually a very refreshing drink. Even though you're drinking vodka and gin, to me it's as light as drinking just straight gin. You can also have just a regular vodka martini, which shaken, not stirred, which again in and of itself is good. And I'm not going to make one today, but it's the same way that you would do this one. You would shake it, and then I would say you can use orange or you can use lemon. Either way, but or again, if you want to use olives, that's great. Get a good cocktail olive. And there's also something that people are not aware of. When you do olives, there's a bartender superstition. The olives can't have an even number. So when you're going to put olives on a skewer into your cocktail, you'll notice at bars they don't ever put 3. They'll put 1, or I'm sorry, no, they won't put 2, right? It's always going to be odd numbers. So they'll put 1, or they'll put 3 on there, something like that. But it's just some kind of bartender superstition. So if you're going to use olives, please do that. Make sure it's an odd number. The other thing is that I mentioned a Gibson. A Gibson is simply a gin martini, but using cocktail onions. And those are really good. It adds a little savoriness to your cocktail. The other thing I've tried also, there's like this kind of thing. It's like a cocktail asparagus, and you can just add that to it, and the essence of the asparagus goes into your liquid. So there's just 10 million ways to do it, but for my money, a classic gin martini with lemon, stirred, or a Vesper with gin, vodka, the Coca Americano instead of the Quina Lillet, shaken this time. Get it ice cold, and like I said, how will you know it's ice cold? Because when you, like we did, you saw me, I looked and I saw that sheen of ice, right? And I said, then you know it's cold. And then you take either, you can use lemon, but I use orange. And you could see it. You could see it out. You could see the essence of the orange. And it just gives it such a great flavor. Awesome. So there you have it. That's how you make, that's how I make my martinis. Do I like Cosmos and all those other variations? Yeah, I do, but I tend to be a purist, and I like having spirits like this. And, I guess I could justify it too, saying it's basically kind of low carb, because you're not really adding a whole bunch of sugars to it. But try it. You should just try it. People think, oh, I can't make a martini. It's really complex. It's not. You saw it. It's not complex. As long as you have the right, first of all, obviously you have the right spirits, and also the right vermouth. This is a Dolan's. Oh, one thing about vermouth, I forgot. When you open a bottle of vermouth, you have to refrigerate it right away. And you should use it within 30 days, right? If you don't, that's okay. But after a few months, it's not the same. So get a good one like Dolan's. There's a bunch of them out there. I think Martini and Rossi. But make sure you just get a good one and keep it refrigerated. So, but it's not complex, and you'll experiment first before you try it on your friends. If you like martinis, just try it, and make sure you have a shaker. Make sure you've got something to stir. Put the ice in if you're going to do a stirring version of it. Make sure you get a jigger so you can measure, and then of course these tools that you need, either a paring knife or peelers. And that's kind of all you need. And then I always put a towel down here because you don't want to get your bar messy. And just have at it. Just try it, and you'll have a good time. I'd love to hear your comments, especially if you try any of these martinis. Let me know how it went. I'm sure it's going to be fine. And then from there, you can just try any number of things. I've never done an espresso martini, chocolate martini, so I may try that someday and see how that works. But I hope you got something out of this. Again, this is a little bit different from the normal Ronin leadership stuff, especially as of late, where I've been delving a little more into the political realm, just as to see the correlation between what's going on and the insanity that is politics in the U.S. and leadership. This would be something for the Christmas and New Year's season, just something a little bit livelier. And we'll be doing a little bit more of these kind of things as well, just to shake things up. So please continue to hit the subscribe and like button. Please share these videos with your friends and anybody else you think might like the content. Go to MikeHowardAuthor.com. Again, you can find everything there in terms of the books, the podcasts, the links, all that kind of good stuff. So until the next time, what am I going to do with both of these? Oh, I think I'll sip this one. And then I think I'll sip this one. That's it for the Ronin Leadership Podcast.